Well, I gotta tell ya, there's something that happens in ham radio far more often than all of us would like to admit. It goes something like this. A ham goes silent key, and maybe this bloke has been licensed for 40, 50 or even 60 years. Behind him is a shack full of equipment. You name it, radios, amplifiers, microphones, test gear, tubes, he's got it. And because this is ham radio, there's probably 17 versions of the same adapter, because throwing away a connector is how civilization ends, so you just don't do it. To another ham, that room might contain thousands of dollars worth of gear and maybe some genuine radio history. But to the family standing in the doorway, it can just look like a room of old junk. And that's the tragedy, isn't it? They've got a funeral to organise, they've got accounts to close and a house to clear, and eventually somebody says the words every vintage collector fears. Just get a dumpster. And that, my friends, is how 50 years of ham radio history can disappear in an afternoon. G'day, I'm VK4KWM, and I think we should chat about this. But before we do, if you enjoy my videos, subscribe to Real Ham Radio. This channel is researched, written and voiced by a real ham and former radio announcer. In an increasingly automated online world, I'm still doing this the old-fashioned way, one video at a time. If you value that, your support is really appreciated. Now back to the video. If nobody else knows what your equipment is, what it's worth, what matters, and what is actually junk, that's not entirely their fault, you know, because you were the expert. If all that knowledge exists only inside your head, sadly, it's going to disappear with you. I've had heaps of comments on this channel from people who've seen it happen. Pristine stations sold for next to nothing. Rare equipment that just gets tossed out. And hams understandably say, how could their family not know what that was? Because to us, yes, it's a Collins radio. To somebody else, it's a large grey box that never played Netflix. And look, they shouldn't be expected to become ham radio experts while they're grieving. So make it easy for them. You don't have to add "prepare for death" underneath "fixed a 40-metre antenna on the weekend job list." One of the best things you can do is nominate what I'd call a radio executor. Radio executor. Not your legal executor, a trusted ham who knows your station. Someone your family can call and they'll say, yep, that amplifier is valuable, those two pieces over there, they belong together. Don't throw those tubes away, and yes, that pile over there really is rubbish. Because preserving radio history doesn't mean preserving every rusty chassis you've dragged home since the Nixon administration. Some things matter, some items are useful, and some radios have been a future restoration project since Jimmy Carter was president. And if the collection is valuable, give your family 2 people to contact, because we also need to talk about the vultures. Now, most hams are decent people, but word gets around that someone has died. They hear about the Collins station, they hear about the big amplifier, a rare receiver, and suddenly a bloke who hasn't visited you in 8 years is extremely concerned about helping the family clear the shack. He says, "Oh, honestly, this stuff isn't worth that much. Tell you what, I'll give you $500 for everything. I'll save you the hassle." And somehow, despite none of it being worth anything apparently, he already knows exactly which radios he wants loaded into his truck first. One of those worthless radios might be worth more than he's offering for the whole collection. Now that's the kind of vulture I'm talking about. You gotta watch out for these blokes. So if the person telling your family what something is worth also wants to buy it, my advice is get a second opinion. But let's be fair, a low offer for the whole station isn't automatically a rip-off. You might look around and say, yep, that radio is worth $2,500, the amplifier is worth $3, that receiver $900, and pretty soon you've got a figure of $20,000 in your head. Maybe you will get that with each item sold individually. But somebody has to test everything, photograph it, advertise it, answer messages, pack it, ship it, deal with the idiots, and 20 different other buyers. And maybe in amongst that they'll find one genuine bloke. So your family might turn around and simply say, we need this room empty. So really, There's three values. There's what everything might make sold individually. There's what somebody will pay to take the whole collection. And sometimes you may just have to pay someone to take the burden away. But that doesn't mean $500, because along with those beautiful radios, there's good gear, but there's also broken power supplies, there's old transformers, and lots of random bits and pieces that might be useful. But let's be honest, a lot of hams are simply hoarders. They have a mindset along the lines of, I have successfully avoided making a decision about this since 1987. So be realistic. If getting absolute top dollar matters to you, sell some of it yourself while you're still alive. Don't leave your family a full-time job disguised as an inheritance. Make a simple list of the important gear, what it is, whether it works, and roughly what it's worth. Not what somebody's asking online, not eBay inflated prices, but what they're actually selling for, because rare doesn't automatically mean valuable. Sometimes it simply means they didn't make many of them because they couldn't sell the bloody things. Take photographs too, and better still, record a quick walkthrough of the shack. Nothing dramatic. You don't need to stand in the shack like Robert Stack and say, if you're watching this, I'm already gone. Just show people what matters, what belongs together, and who they should call before somebody starts dismantling the tower. If you haven't touched something in 10 years, maybe let somebody else enjoy it. Sell it, give it to a club, better still, and give something to a younger ham and get to see them use it. Don't sell that priced amplifier to somebody who's just going to hoard it and not use it on the air. But sadly, this brings up something else that I basically have no patience for anymore, and this has happened far too often in my 40 years on this planet. An older ham meets a younger ham who is passionate about the older gear, but they don't quite see eye to eye. Maybe the younger bloke uses FT8, maybe he doesn't know Morse. Maybe he likes SDRs, maybe his politics are different. Maybe they don't particularly like each other. Fine, leave it aside. You don't have to become best mates. What's important is that if that younger ham really wants to learn what you know, teach him what you can, because I've seen older hams make the same mistakes over and over again. They decide the younger bloke doesn't live up to their expectations. And the result? Years of knowledge go nowhere. And then we hear no young people are interested anymore. Well, you know what? Sometimes they were. You just didn't like the one who turned up. You were judgmental. Don't make the same mistake. We spend years asking where are all the young people in amateur radio. Then, when one finally walks through the door, he's subjected to an interrogation.
Do you use FT8? Do you use Morse? What radio have you got? Do you use repeaters? Do you understand proper radio? Have you ever owned a tube transmitter?
At this point, he thought he was joining a hobby, but apparently he's applying for a security clearance for Area 51. The next generation is allowed to be different. If someone younger wants to learn from you, don't make being the younger version of you part of the entry requirements. Maybe the bloke who wants to take on your Collins or Drake gear also operates FT8. If Arthur Collins were around today, I reckon he would have been disappointed in some of the behaviour I've personally witnessed. Maybe the younger ham knows SDRs, software, microcontrollers, or he might be into 3D printing. You know how to open a tube transmitter that hasn't worked for a long time, poke around for 10 minutes and say, yep, it's that. Those aren't competing skills. That's how your knowledge gets passed on. That's how your knowledge doesn't get lost. But at the end of the day, the tragedy is something important being thrown away because nobody knew what that radio was. Don't leave your family in mystery. Pick somebody you trust, be realistic about value, pass on some equipment while you're still here, and most importantly, teach somebody. Even somebody you don't always agree with. Maybe the future of amateur radio doesn't look like you. Are you ready to accept that? Because maybe that's where the fulfillment is, not in finding someone who does the hobby exactly the way you did, but in helping someone else find their own way into it. So do you agree or disagree? Do you want to shoot me down in flames? You better be prepared. I'll take you on, punk. Let me know in the comments. I'm VK4KWM. This is Real Ham Radio.